Hey folks, David Glenn here from the David Glenn Show, the North Carolina Sports Network, and NCSportsNetwork.com. NBC sports analyst Tony Dungy recently appeared on Fox News as part of a small panel discussing why less than 25% of Generation Z members, meaning those who are roughly 13 to 28 years old right now, describe themselves as avid sports fans, when polls of older generations tend to produce percentages of avid sports fans much higher than that number. While that is an interesting topic and one that definitely concerns many in the sports world with the longer-term future in mind, Dungy decided to point to some sort of Taylor Swift factor as his explanation, or at least part of his explanation for this trend. Quote, "That is the thing disenchanting people with sports right now," Dungy said. "There's so much on the outside coming in. Entertainment value and different things that's taking away from what really happens on the field." With all due respect to Tony Dungy, and I say this as someone who has written extensively on some related topics as a journalist, analyzed related topics as an attorney, and even has taught about this subject at the college level as a professor in my classes at UNC Wilmington, this is a classic case of the old saying, missing the forest for the trees. And unfortunately, it is Dungy who is guilty of pushing an interesting topic in an ignorant, clueless, misleading, and even occasionally angry direction. I have a feeling that Taylor Swift herself will be able to shake it off. But in the meantime, let's try to make the world a bit smarter and more informed, shall we? Otherwise, Dungy and those who think as he does on this topic will be stuck with this, excuse the expression, blank space between their ears. Are there NFL viewers who complain about too many camera shots of Taylor Swift? Yes, of course there are. Are there even NFL viewers who have sworn off or stopped watching NFL games because, as Dungy suggested, there's just too much attention being given to off-the-field stuff and not enough attention being paid to what's happening on the field? Probably yes, although history has repeatedly taught us that only a tiny fraction of fans who promise or threaten to boycott a sports league or a sports team actually follow through on that threat in the long run. As it turns out, a lot more people like or even become addicted to the feeling of being angry or screaming about boycotts or celebrities than are actually willing to go through with the boycott that, in the end, may prevent them from watching their favorite team or their favorite sport, especially in the biggest games. Over the years, I've become convinced that in the end, 99% or more of those people fail to actually follow through on their boycott threats. Whether you, as a viewer or listener, love Taylor Swift, hate Taylor Swift, love the NFL, or hate the NFL, the following facts still apply whether or not you or Tony Dungy or anyone else likes it. Actual facts and hard evidence tend to be stubborn that way. The number one reason Tony Dungy is missing the point with his lazy, uninformed Taylor Swift comments. The National Football League, folks, is so incredibly popular right now, especially in the United States, but increasingly around the world, that it has become truly the most lucrative professional sports league, wait for it, in the history of the world. This is not an exaggeration. The NFL's annual revenues are in the neighborhood right now of $20 billion per year. That is 20 billion with a B per year. There is no sports league in any country, in any era, in any sport, in any time frame that even comes close to the $20 billion per year revenue number. The only other sports leagues that have surpassed even half that amount, $10 billion per year, are Major League Baseball and the National Basketball Association, and even they have done so only within the past few years. there are other popular sports all over the world, including, for example, the English Premier League and several other very lucrative leagues in the world's most popular sport, which here in America we tend to call soccer. But even those very successful leagues have annual revenues that are less than half the NFL's, often less than a quarter of the NFL's annual revenues. That obviously underlines beyond any shadow of any doubt the incredible financial success of, yes, this current version of the National Football League. Taylor Swift haters be damned. Hey folks, David Glenn here for Organize for Success. I am a better person and a more effective business owner for having known and learned from Emily Parks over many years now. Emily's company, Organize for Success, helps multi-passionate business owners and executives bring harmony to all the layers of their lives, from work to side projects, from friends and family to hobbies, community, and beyond. With Emily's help, you too can make every minute matter. She helps you determine what earns your time and how to efficiently accomplish what matters. One of the many things I love about Emily is that she doesn't impose her will on her clients. She listens to them. That way she can better help them cultivate the lives they want to live. You can set up a complimentary call with Emily today by visiting organizeforsuccess.com. That's organize, F-O-R, success.com. The number two reason Tony Dungy and his sycophants are missing the point with his lazy, uninformed Taylor Swift comments. If Tony Dungy was right about off-the-field distractions, wouldn't this year's TV ratings have gone down? Instead, guess what? Almost all the evidence points in the absolute opposite direction, with Taylor Swift actually improving viewership numbers in the games she attends, especially among women and especially among that younger generation Tony Dungy was talking about, where TV executives do have some legitimate concerns about their overall connection to sports, but those concerns actually were put in a better place because of Taylor Swift's involvement with the NFL this season. The popularity of the NFL has been going up for decades. And the 2023 calendar year, the Swiftie one that just recently ended, continued that undeniable upward trend. How do we know that? With actual evidence. You know, the stuff that smart people consider when trying to determine whether a Taylor Swift is hurting the NFL theory or any other theory has any merit, or whether it's just more of the ignorant, unsupported tripe that qualifies as news for some media outlets and, unfortunately, for many clueless American consumers these days. Guess what? Evidence. Of the 100 most watched American TV broadcasts in the year 2023, the Taylor Swift NFL year. And remember, this considers television programming of any kind, not just sports-related content. A whopping 93, all but 7 of those 100 most watched broadcasts were related to, wait for it, professional football, including all of the top 20 most viewed telecasts. That is according to Nielsen, the company that has been estimating American TV audiences for decades. College football had 3 games whose audience ranked in the top 100 this past calendar year. There were no NBA games. That's a very popular league. No college basketball games. Another very popular sport. No Major League Baseball games. No NHL games. No Major League Soccer games anywhere in the top 100. But there were 93 NFL-related games in the top 100. Young people, including Gen Zers, obviously contributed to those amazing numbers too. Do you know what the most watched broadcast in American TV history is? Not just the Super Bowl in the general sense, but it's the most recent Super Bowl, meaning in February 2023, between those Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles, a Kelsey family special, It was viewed by an estimated 115 million people. And guess what? Millions, not everyone, mind you, but millions of viewers loved that Super Bowl halftime show and the creative commercials and the crowd shots and the cheerleader shots and the celebrity shots and lots of other things that are unrelated, in Tony Dungy's terms, to the actual game or product on the field. 50 years ago, folks, in the mid-1970s, the Super Bowl attracted TV audiences of less than half that size. And how's this for a relevant, impactful, intelligent perspective? While viewership of the World Series in Major League Baseball has gone down by a lot in my lifetime, and the viewership of the NBA Finals has gone down pretty significantly from its peak during the Michael Jordan era in the 1990s, the NFL's biggest games have been trending aggressively in the exact opposite direction, meaning up. And that does include the current 2023-2024 season, which obviously included the Taylor Swift factor. Maybe those other sports need more of Taylor Swift and others like her, not fewer of them. Wouldn't that be fun to study in an intelligent way? The number 3 reason Tony Dungy is missing the point with his lazy, uninformed Taylor Swift comments. The National Football League currently rests on the firmest economic foundation in the history of sports. And again, that is not an opinion. It is not an exaggeration. It is not some ignorant, misleading Fox News style commentary. I actually encourage you to look it up yourself and fact check me. That is how you separate actual journalists, and in my case, professors, attorneys, etc., from the grifters who are turning you into more angry, less educated, more ignorant versions of yourself. Tony Dungy doesn't always do that, but he absolutely did, unfortunately, in this particular case. The grifters, remember, never want to be fact-checked. It is among their greatest fears. Your ignorance is their oxygen. Please stop. The NFL's current TV and streaming deals roughly doubled the value of the league's previous contracts. Can you sense the upward trend again? From about $5 billion a year to about $10 billion a year. And they extend all the way through, wait for it, the 2033-34 NFL season, meaning almost exactly a decade from right now into the future. That gives the NFL about a full 10 years to figure out how to connect even better with Gen Z and other younger fans. No other professional sports league in the history of the world has ever had contracts that valuable over that long a term, and that is just one more thing that makes the most lucrative professional sports league in the history of the world truly different than everyone else. The grifters have been telling you since even before Colin Kaepernick took a knee during the national anthem that the NFL was in decline, remember? It was driving itself into a ditch, do you recall? The go woke, go broke boys depend on your anger, your naivete, your ignorance, and your unwillingness to follow the facts or consider actual evidence. They just hope that you're addicted to being mad at Kaepernick, at Taylor Swift, or some other nonsensical, manufactured specifically for the daily rage machine topic of the day. They have been lying to you. Either they didn't do their homework, and Tony Dungy certainly did not in this case, as I've laid out for you in these videos, or they're just flat out lying to you, repeatedly and on purpose, only in a way that doesn't leave them subject to mega millions in legal settlements, as Fox News, which broadcast Dungy's most recent ridiculous comments, has been dealing with because of their repeated, purposeful, we need you to be stupid lies on various non-sports topics. What many Americans haven't figured out yet is that it's actually accurate to say that the NFL does have many legitimate challenges, including its lesser popularity, with the younger generation, Gen Z included. There has been a decline, for example, in participation rates in youth football. There are serious medical problems, including CTE and related lawsuits involving many former NFL players. There are many, many fans who complain about, fill in the blank, too many penalty flags, too many commercials, too many stoppages of play, too many replay reviews, too many bad calls, off the field player misbehavior, not enough on the field physicality, the so-called wussification of the sport, and yes, for some, even too many Taylor Swift camera shots. But smart, informed people realize that all of those examples are merely individual pieces, small pieces indeed, of a much, much larger puzzle. And even if a dozen or more of those puzzle pieces involve some negativity, some complications, some challenges, some imperfections, some long-term concerns, you would be unwise to ignore the much greater number of positive signs. You might even say billions with a B of positive signs well into the next decade. Otherwise, like Tony Dungy, you definitely will miss the forest for the trees. Tony Dungy is not a fundamentally stupid or unintelligent person. But this is not the first time he has polluted his brain, his Twitter account, or the television airwaves with politically driven, partisan, unsupported by evidence nonsense. If he's willing to open his eyes to that actual evidence, even he will be able to see the absurdity of his own words. Perhaps you can see it now too. This is David Glenn. Thanks for joining us on the North Carolina Sports Network and ncsportsnetwork.com. In sports, we talk a lot about impact players who make a positive difference. When it comes to our state's economy, the North Carolina pork industry is a true MVP. Each year, the pork industry plays an important role in supporting rural communities across our state. It contributes more than $10 billion a year to the North Carolina economy and supports more than 44,000 jobs. Learn more about their positive impact at ncpork.org. The North Carolina Pork Council, the foundational partner of the North Carolina Sports Network.